Support for Consider This is provided by the University of Nebraska at Omaha College of Communication, Fine Arts, and Media.
Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news.
Just look at this place.
It's a mess, isn't it?
Just take a second. You're all shipshape again. And warm up.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, retirement. Joining us to talk more about it are Tom Gutierre. Tom served as Dean of International Studies and Programs and Director for the Center of Afghanistan Studies. And next to him, Warren Franke. Warren was a communication professor. Now retired, these two served a combined total of 76 years here at UNO. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Welcome to the
Good to be here.
That's the total of my age right now, that's 76. This year I turned 76.
I didn't even script that, Tom, and you offered it to us. Thank you so much. I have thoughts about starting with Afghanistan. That's usually where we begin. But I just want to ask you, how's retired life going?
Well, before I tell you that, I'd like to just say how privileged I feel to have been able to have worked in what I consider to be a dream job at UNO for 41 years. I mean, I really had a fantastic time and feel very privileged to have been able to do that here. And and then it's also nice that they have a very good retirement package. So that's helped to contribute to my appreciation for UNO and also the idea of retirement. But for me, retirement, most people aren't aware of what people's other lives are when they see them professionally. And I had a very active other life as well. And for me, more than anything else, retirement has enabled me to do those kinds of things, particularly with family and friends, that I always enjoyed doing, without any time constraints, calendar constraints. And so I'm enjoying being able to do that a great deal. And I think anybody who is able to have such a type of retirement will, I think, also feel as I do to be very, very lucky. And I'm having a grand time and staying in Omaha, which I really have come to love too very, very much.
When did you leave, Tom?
The 1st of October this past year. Mm-hmm. So that's not as long ago as my buddy here, whom I admire greatly, by the way, Warren Franke, who worked on a program that I managed way back in 1975 and 76 in Europe, he and his wife Sue. And he has a few more years of retirement than I.
Well, and we're going to get into that too in just a few minutes. I do want to talk, you mentioned 41 years, right? Mm-hmm. Wow, coming out of that, I think viewers, especially those who've watched you through the years, what about the early days, Tom? We're looking at this photo now. Maybe we should ask you to tell us about the photo first, huh?
And the haircut and everything that goes. Well, of course, that's how they were wearing their hair those days. But that was I was 35 then, I guess. So in any case, when I came to UNO, it was an institution that was really kind of crying for activities that today we call global engagement. Mm-hmm. we had 17 international students. When I left UNO, we had over 2,000 international students. And so there were many things that were going on, starting the Center for Afghanistan Studies. We developed an international studies major and decided to support a remarkable biblical archaeology project in Israel, Bethsaida. So there are many things that hadn't yet started, and when I came here, there was this energy. I'll never forget Orville Menard coming to me, professor of political science, offering what he could. Anthony Young, who was these were both colleagues of Chris Jung, who had started the Center for Afghanistan Studies, offering whatever they could to help out. And that's what I found when I got here, just a tremendous enthusiasm, tremendous eagerness to be a part of anything that would help to internationalize, as we called it then, this campus and the communities that it served.
Yeah, and of course we talk quite a bit, especially with you, about Afghanistan. We're going to put a map up, as we've done times before. I don't know, Tom, whether you're retired or not, any thoughts looking at that map?
Well, I'm pleased and proud to be able to say our Center for Afghanistan Studies still remains the only one in North America. It's very, very successful. We just obtained a couple of $1 million grants to, in collaboration with the College of Communication, Fine Arts, and Media, to do journalism training in Afghanistan, and another one that will be training female leaders, etc. So it goes strong, and I think the future of Afghanistan and our own future in the region in terms of our security is very, very dependent upon continuing effective programming involving organizations like UNO and its Center for Afghanistan Studies and the people of Afghanistan. So I have a strong feeling, obviously, for that country. I spent 10 years there. I don't know if you've put up the one with the basketball
Yeah,
player.
we're going to do that right now. And as we put that up, you can tell us a little bit.
Well, that's me in the lower left-hand corner. I was then 25 years old, and my team and I were celebrating, along with the team that we beat on this photo. I can pick them all out as different, but we were celebrating the first of every year in Kabul they had high school basketball championship tourneys twice a year. So this is the first that we ever won, and I never lost that tourney in 10 years of coaching. So that means 20 times my team won this, and I really loved that. That was something that I could not have scripted any better for myself to have this opportunity as a Peace Corps volunteer, then later as a Fulbrighter, to be coaching the team in Afghanistan. So there I am 50 years ago, 51 years ago now, and I just had the grandest time getting to know Afghans and the country better in a more spontaneous way because of this experience.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Warren,
Yeah,
you're up, right?
I'm up. What do you need?
I think before we start, I just need to ask, how did you meet Tom? Let our viewers know.
Various places, even on a St. Margaret Mary's volleyball court. I had some neighbors who were members of that church across the street here from UNO, and they got me to play on their volleyball team. I would imagine we probably handled Tom's team pretty easily, but I don't recall for sure.
Yeah. I would imagine Tom has a different memory. Warren?
Possibly.
I think we probably had a few Afghans who were helping us out, maybe.
I think you did.
Yeah, right.
I think you did.
And we probably clobbered you, but anyhow.
Your retirement a little bit further back than Tom's. Before we go way back, Warren, take us back to about 2001. What do you remember about the time when you were actually leaving the university?
You know, the thing that struck me most as I left was that I left what started out when I started was a department of journalism with 2 people in it, which joined with the speech department, which was larger, and the journalism half grew, and we became a communication department, and later on we became a communication school. But going back to that time and then recognizing what I felt like when I retired is that the most important thing I accomplished was helping to hire good people to carry on after I left. I served on search committee after search committee, so by the time I retired, almost all those people were people that I had helped interview and helped bring to UNO, and I thought, happy to leave. I want to spend my time writing, and the department or the school or whatever it became was in good shape.
So Warren, when you come back for tapings like this one, right?
Sure.
What do you think?
I think, where will I find a parking place? What else?
We all think
We
that,
all
Warren.
Yeah.
Well,
I used to come back a lot because I used to work out at Hyper.
Okay.
But to be honest with you, I now go to a 24-hour fitness because it's a little more convenient from where I live.
Well, that's good to hear that you're moving. That's
Oh,
awesome.
Hey, you want to hear the stats? Yeah. 3 miles an hour, 33 minutes. I mean, excuse me. 33 minutes to run 3 miles, not 3 miles an hour. Much faster than that. Okay.
No, I'm
Enough of
wondering, are you pleased with what's transpired over the years? You say you left wanting to make sure folks were in place.
Yeah, and I'm just proud of the people here. I just saw one of my former colleagues, Chris Allen, who helps run this station and is heading off to Afghanistan to help with the journalism program there. But that's true right down the line of people, including other people that I helped bring into our department who now hold top administrative positions at the university. So that's a very satisfying thing to leave behind.
Warren, you were here for 35 years.
That's right.
So we'll rewind. We went back to 2001. Now let's rewind 35 years prior to that.
Sure.
What do you remember about that time?
Well, I remember that I was a working journalist who expected to keep on being a journalist while I taught journalism. And I didn't want to be in that position of somebody who simply teaches. And so I had been working at first the Council Bluffs Nonpareil, working at the Sun newspapers under Warren Buffett's ownership, where we won Pulitzers and other awards. And I came to UNO and planned to continue to write, and I did. So I continued to do what I was teaching our students to do. And then, of course, I had the added satisfaction of teaching students who I could steer to the World Herald and to the television stations and to other publications and into public relations. And part of the great thing about teaching is after 35 years, you've still got former students all over town doing the things that you work with them on as students.
So some of the things have changed in the world of journalism, Warren, but what remains the same? What does a good journalist need to have, regardless of what time frame we're talking?
I think it has to have a zest for learning about life in all its facets. I started out wanting to be a sports writer. I thought, what a good deal. The World Herald actually paid me a couple bucks to go to a football game or a basketball game when I first started as a copy boy at the World Herald. In your first year I got out of high school, and I thought, wow, they paid me to do that. In more recent years, they used to pay me to go to theater, go to shows. I'm going tonight to review Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, wow.
So the stuff that I've been doing since high school when I covered high school sports, and tonight when I'm going to see the Phantom of the Opera for the umpteenth time, has pretty much all been part and parcel of my whole journalistic life experience.
Well, you're a very well-respected writer.
Thank you.
Warren. I'm wondering, is there a time in your life that you can go back to where you kind of had that light bulb moment of, this is really what I want to do, and I'm pretty good at it, right?
One time I thought about, when did I first get excited about words and writing? And I thought, was it the time when I was 5 years old and I was bickering with my older sister and my grandfather called me a squibbling midget? I thought, hey, that's language, that's powerful. That's an impact. But I think probably to be a little more realistic about it, I think it was an evolving thing, and only as I progressed later on, when I was doing stories that I thought were important, stories for the Sun newspapers, stories that covered topics that were being ignored at that time by the daily newspaper. I wrote about sex education in Omaha 37 years ago, and 35 years later I wrote a follow-up on it, and we're still squabbling about the same issues that they were back then. So I don't know quite what that proves. But what I found was that the most satisfying thing about journalism, daily, weekly, or magazine journalism, was writing about people that were inspiring. Mike Denny, our former wrestling coach here, who won 5 national championships. Father Ken Vavrina, who worked with Mother Teresa in Calcutta. People like that. And those are the stories that as you mature, covering the games didn't seem quite as inspiring or encouraging as writing about such people.
There's a phrase that people associate with you, Warren: show, don't tell.
That's because I told students, I showed them, I should say. That I used to use an example of that. I told you, you could get in trouble if you were covering a trial and you told the reader that the judge fell asleep at the bench during the trial. That's not good. But if you want to indicate that, you show it by describing the fact that at some point during the trial, he laid his head down on the bench, closed his eyes, and began to snore loudly. That would be showing the judge, without telling the reader he was sleeping, you're showing them that he was sleeping. That's how that works. Yes, okay. And I use that in similar examples in class.
You guys would have been great to have in class, I think. But too late now, right? Guess I can only think about that. All right, so Warren, with the career that you've had, and you continue, obviously, to write, how do you sum up something like that? I mean, when somebody says to you, Warren, tell me a little bit about your life, how do you bring that around in a
I tell them I wish I would have known when I was much younger, and I thought I was still going to be playing basketball at this age. I'm now 79, and I don't play basketball much anymore, at all, in fact. I was amazed to find that my powers, whatever they may be as a writer, have not declined, and that I can still do something as well as I would like to do now. I wrote a story last year about the plaintiffs in the same-sex marriage case that was decided in Nebraska, and I got a response from an editor who said, that's showing us how it's done. And that made me feel pretty good, because I felt proud of the story. I was impressed with the people that I talked to, and I guess what I'm saying is I've become most impressed in these later years by the fact that what I started when I was a teenager still really works well for me at this age.
Well, before we go full speed ahead into your retirements, your respective retirements, I have to ask the two of you, along the way, most impactful, inspirational person, that individual that really helped get you where you went, right? And I'll start with you, Tom. Is there somebody that comes to mind that?
Well, for me, it was my parents. I mean, I think I was just fortunate to have great parents who loved me. I loved them, and they encouraged me to learn, and then introduced me to sets of circumstances through my education where I would meet a whole host of others. Those who know about my coaching in basketball know that I received help from Johnny Wooden, the great coach from UCLA, or that I, got to know individuals in the State Department who helped me become more informed in global affairs, and I got to be engaged in negotiating the Soviets out of Afghanistan. These are people you come to along the line. I've had many mentors, many close colleagues that I look up to. Some are still alive, and but I feel very fortunate that I had a family. My grandfather was a really beloved guy, and my parents, they're the ones who made me. I think the person that I became to want to acquire education and learn. I was so interested about the rest of the world, and then I wind up having my education in international education without understanding it. As you know, I started out as a pastry chef, so we can do that later.
Yeah, okay. Warren, what about you?
Well, it's interesting that Tom mentions family. My parents weren't involved in the kind of work that I became involved in, but my ancestors going back to 1550, up to my grandfather and two great-grandfathers were Lutheran ministers. Now, I didn't have a lot of direct contact or direct influence from them. Whatever influence that might be, it might have been more intangible and spiritual. But I was honored by my former the high school I graduated from in Council Bluffs, and I thought of two teachers and what they had said to me. And one of them was taught Spanish, and she said, you know, you have it too easy in high school, but if you don't learn to work hard, you won't amount to anything. I said, okay. I sort of took that seriously. And the other teacher was my high school basketball coach. We'll both get a basketball story in, Tom. My high school basketball coach, I was a little guy and I wasn't very good, but he treated me really well. And I appreciated the fact that, you know, that worked. But I was out of high school and went to work at the World Herald as a copy boy, copy messenger, whatever you want to call it. Gopher, you did all that stuff. And I would listen to the managing editor of the World Herald, Fred Ware. He was a big Nebraska fan, a big football fan, and he was a fire-breathing, stormy editor who liked to yell and shout. Treated me very well. But the thing I remember most that he taught, that he said, when you're writing, you got to make it sing. So I decided that my interest in literature and my interest in writing, that it was all going to be poetry, you know, if I could make it so. Not that that works very often for some routine stuff, but it was at least a challenge to make all the writing as poetic and as song-like as possible.
Very cool. In the minutes that we have remaining, I do want to go to some photographs. It's a little bit scary to go there because I know you guys are going to get all excited when you see these. Warren, I know you're still writing.
Yep.
And we're going to put up a graphic of your book.
Yep.
And just briefly tell us what's in these pages.
That is a fascinating story of 90 years that is interwoven with Omaha history so wonderfully, so that when you're writing about the Playhouse, you're also telling the stories of prominent Omahans of all kinds. You know, from my favorite story, by the way, got a time for a real quick one. Grant Wood does the scenic design for the play Brigham Young in 1932, and the night before it opens, the Mormon Church has a meeting with the Playhouse board, and they forced the Playhouse to drop 17 of Brigham Young's wives from the cast just the night before it opens. So that's the kind of stuff that was fun to discover when you're digging into the history. Others. Oh, one more, quick. Oh, listen to this one. Okay. There's a famous woman who later became Jackie Kennedy's secretary and aide. And she was asked to be in a play at the Playhouse called Raggedy Ann and Andy. Only problem was at 13 years of age, she was 6 foot tall. You're not going to cast her as Raggedy Ann.
Wow.
This good sport of a woman played a tired old horse. Now, if I can think of her name quickly, tell me.
Letitia Baldrige.
Absolutely.
Right,
Thank you.
yeah.
You win.
That's why Tom's here, Warren.
That's why Tom's
That's exactly
here.
why
Yeah.
Tom's here.
Tish Baldridge.
Right.
Yeah. And the fun about doing histories in Omaha is you talk to one of your friends in your Bible study, and he says, I used to date her.
I didn't, but
No.
All right, so we have some photographs for you, Tom.
Okay.
We're going to put up some pictures of your grandkids.
those are my grandchildren, and I mentioned that what do? I try to spend as much time with my family and friends, enjoying the things that I like to do, and I love the Detroit Tigers and baseball, and I'm making sure that my grandchildren do too. Here's one of my grandsons running the bases in Lakeland, Florida, where the Detroit Tigers are doing their spring training. We just did this past March. These are my two granddaughters, and they ran the bases too. They're 6 and 4, so all of them got to do that. That's Lakeland, Florida. That's Joker Marchant Stadium, where the Detroit Tigers do their spring training. So, you know, baseball and the Detroit Tigers is a large part of retirement for me. I always made it a large part of my life before. Now I'm freer to do it. I don't have to worry about what time I get up or when I go to bed. If the Tigers are playing in the West Coast, I get to watch, you know, all the way to the end and not have to worry about what time I get up the next day to go to work. So my time is my own, and so, but I just don't do that. I enjoy other things too. I think more than anything else, in some ways, I just enjoy being in Omaha, being with my friends and, of course, my family, doing those things that I always found Omaha provided such a great venue for, you know, great restaurants. I like to cook. As you know, I used to be a baker. My family had a pastry shop. I became a member of the Northwestern Ohio Master Pastry Baking Association, now defunct. But anyhow, that was my first job. Very different than international education. But so I get to still work with food and things of this nature. So I'm having a grand time, really,
Sounds like it.
and it's fun, and it will continue to be, I'm pretty sure.
Wow, Warren.
One thing that I should mention is I get a lot of my joy in life from things other than writing, and that includes the time I'm able to spend with my wife Carol of 22 years, and we spend 8 months of that enjoying Omaha and 4 months of it in our cabin at 8,400 feet in Colorado, enjoying the cool Colorado summer weather.
I'm sure our viewers are thinking, you guys don't have it real rough there. You're doing pretty well, huh?
Well, I think we're probably both able to say we feel very, very fortunate. And again, fortunate to have worked at UNO all those years, fortunate to be able to retire in a community. I think Dundee is the best place to live. I never anticipated that when we moved here in 1974. But it's the good retirement plan, all that's very nice. And so one just has to hope for continued good fortune and health, and the stock markets to play at least smoothly, so that to be able to continue that.
Well, I think I speak for everyone who knows either one of you that we are so blessed at UNO to have had your presence and all that presence brought with it, and all the giving back to the communities that you gentlemen have both done. So we are running out of time, but I do want to ask each of you, you get about 30 seconds if you can do it, the legacy you want to leave. Warren?
Wow. Well, I think I mentioned it when I talked about the people that we brought into this communication program while I was here, and the students that are out in the community and around the country doing great things, and that's an awful lot to enjoy and be proud of.
Thank you, Tom.
For me, it's my family and the relationships with my friends. That is, I think, what I hope more than anything else to be my legacy.
Okay, thank you. I want to put up a graphic in the spirit of retirement. And by the way, retirement is a lot about talking about where we've been and where we are and where we want to go, and I appreciate you guys sharing that with us today. This is just AARP.org. 6 ways to a happy retirement. You guys can go to that website, log on there, and take a look at that. But I do want to close the program with this handshake, Tom. So you've got this handshake. It's
famous
classic.
international grip.
There we go.
Okay, thank you.
Gentlemen, I cannot thank you enough for being here today. This has been, we didn't have enough time, and I figured that would be the case. But again, on behalf of everyone, thank you for everything that you've done and all that you will continue to do for yourselves, your families, and the community.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good to be with you, Warren.
That handshake, that was just terrible.
And thank you all for watching. We will see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information can be found at unotv.unomaha.edu. If you'd like to share your comments about this show, call UNO TV at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours, or email us at considerthis@tvmail.unomaha.edu.